It just never feels good or right that like people's ability to like attend sporting events or have season tickets should be like that heavily correlated to like if you're rich or not.
What you see, at least ambition-wise, is less on the team that's on the field and more on like, we opened this amazing performance center.
You want to talk a little bit more about this season ticket story with the Sounders increasing season ticket prices for everyone. The people are not happy about it. What is the latest there?
Absolutely. Well, a great article that came out on sounderatheart.com. You can get a free 30 days. Go read this full article at sounderatheart.com/LS. Jeremiah wrote extensively about this, reached out to the club. I helped him with a little bit of data collection. We surveyed 250, 260. I think we cut it down to 225 more like real responses to what people's tickets had been raised to, what they were at before. So we wanted to kind of zero in on a big picture of what is actually frustrating people here. So I'm going to read a couple quotes from this article, but again, like I said, you should go read the whole thing. It's super long. It's an amazing article. Thank you, Jeremiah, for doing so much work on this. But we'll start here. While there's still almost a week to go before the renewal deadline on August 16th, the hard numbers weren't made available. The public reaction feels very different this time. And this is all talking about people canceling their season tickets and generally just in dismay. Because every year there's an increase and people gripe about it. But, generally it's like 3 to 8%. And that's very marginal. That's like, $3 to $8 increase per ticket per game. Since the new prices were formally released on July 31, the volume and level of frustration has seemed louder and more consistent than I've ever heard, according to Jeremiah. Sounder at Heart distributed a survey that got about 225 responses. The reported median price increase was about 15%, which is one of the biggest across-the-board ticket increase in Sounders history. That's an average of $14 per game or $250 total on average. That's a lot. The Sounders claim the increase comes from them eating a tax increase that they no longer are able to justify paying, and although the Sounders have declined to make anyone available to comment more about the specifics of this, Jeremiah reports that admissions taxes specifically recently increased from 3 to 10%. So they're not lying about that at all, according to government documents, and we all know government documents cannot lie. All of this is set against a backdrop of an overarching sense that the value proposition of having these season tickets has been on a steady decline. I think we can kind of feel that if you're a season ticket holder, just the general amenities around the team's decision to close the upper deck so there's no longer super cheap tickets, limited and expensive concessions. I know at this last Leagues Cup game, there's kind of like a little like local market section up in the back. I think that's what it's called. That was closed. You pay $14 for a single beer and like you can get a case of Rainier for that, I'm pretty sure. And attendance has hitting record lows, and even worse, a lack of transfers. So just to add to specifics on this, the match against RSL was the first time that the Sounders failed to crack 30,000 fans for a league match since 2009, excluding the COVID season where they weren't allowed to, right? If they failed to make a signing in the next few days, which I would say it is pretty much solid now that they will not be making a signing, they will become the first MLS team in at least 10 years to go 3 straight summers without making a signing in the summer. That's what I have. Yeah. So I think generally people's frustration came from a lack of communication from the club, the value of your season tickets seemingly feeling less and less every year as it goes up and up, and generally dropping a very large increase all at once, and just really failing to disclose why. That's where we're at. And personally, I personally canceled my season tickets. I just don't have the money for an extra $250 to go either way. On top of, I buy concessions and I buy extra, Open Cup tickets, Leagues Cup tickets, all of that. I just couldn't really justify it anymore, and that's a personal choice. But I think the bigger issue is that over the past year specifically, the Sounders and the ticket office have done nothing but get kind of bad PR. I remember they charged in full the Leagues Cup run of play on people's cards that were on file accidentally. So like I had they didn't fully overdraft my account, but like the pending charge overdrafted my account, which was just like super annoying. And, the idea and the communication around the fact that there was a potential where if you didn't opt into Leagues Cup, you wouldn't be able to see and secure your seats for the playoffs. So bad communication, people are unhappy with the front office. Ari, all of this combined, where's your head at with this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like the super best person to speak on it as someone who I've never been a season ticket holder, but I do have a take.
Let's hear it.
I have a take here. Whether or not you raise season ticket prices should be like tangibly correlated to performance. So you should only be allowed to raise your season ticket prices if you either average 1.8 points per game or higher, or you make the playoffs and you win 2 playoff games. And at that, if you make it to like your conference championship and you make it to MLS Cup, or you're playing at like a Shield level pace all year, then you have a leg to stand on for your product being like at a level where you're like, okay, like we are good, we are relevant, we are contenders. Like if we want to justify this, like we have a reason to. But like what kind of rubs me the wrong way, and like, I mentioned Atlanta United the last time we talked about this, and I don't think Seattle's like in the category of like how much they've struggled on the field with their on-field product. But like Seattle's been like a 1.3 to 1.5-ish points per game team for the last like 1 to 2 years now at this point. Like if you're playing at that level, I think you need to have the like self-awareness and humility that to realize that when you jack up your prices like that, like you're going to get like negative feedback and negative press for that. That's just how it is. Like, I know that like a policy like that would never happen, but I guess what I'm saying is just like in principle, like there's a certain level of contending and relevance that you should have to be at before you even like think about like jacking up how much you're charging people. That's an outside perspective. I've never had season tickets. I came into this scene as like an outsider and fully as like a media member. So like, I don't want to like act like I'm relating to a struggle that I've never experienced, but I do think like in principle, like I said, like there should be a threshold of relevance and like contending that clubs should take into account when they make decisions like this. They are running a business though, so that I realize they never will think about that in this capitalist society that they live in, but they should think about that.
Yeah.
They should think about that.
No, I agree. I think if this price increase had been done at the end of 2022, after they win CCL, I mean, that summer was brutal, to be fair.
But CCL was huge.
It was like, I think if I had been a season ticket holder at that point, which I wasn't, I would have easily renewed my. I've been like, dude, I just watched my team do something that no one else could have done.
Right.
I totally understand.
And they were like at the apex of relevance in the league. Like they were the standard bearer. Like if you are at a level where you're considered like a full on standard bearer, the envy of the league, I still think that season tickets should be affordable, like reasonably priced, but like you at least have like a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
But like when you are middling and not as relevant, like where does the justification come from? This tax thing, nah. That sounds like business jargon that they're like banking on. I don't understand what that means.
Yeah, I mean, there was legitimately a tax increase from 3 to 10% on emissions taxes, but the club had been absorbing 8% of that. And so 8%, I guess, technically of their, total revenue was just going away immediately. And even though they were increasing prices every year, then it's like, whatever. I understand it, but it's incredibly stupid and incredibly just like when you're not signing anyone, you're an average team at best in the league right now. You are like, yes, you're in contention for Open Cup. That rocks. Now you're kind of almost maybe in contention for Leagues Cup and you're in a playoff spot. But there's a general sense of like the ambition for the club is not there as much as it was in the past. And I mean, yeah, they're sitting in seventh. Like they're right above
1.48.
Yeah. And, what you see, at least ambition wise, is less on the team that's on the field and more on like, we opened this amazing performance center and we're taking a sponsor that a lot of people dislike for moral reasons, but it's a lot of money, so we're going to take it. And then, we're going to buy the rain. It just seems like from an outside perspective. And again, this is probably not the reason that they're raising these prices, but it could be, is like, oh, this is all just our revenue went down because we made a bunch of investments. So let's just jack up prices and even it out. And then we won't have to like absorb any cost. But I think it's silly because there are a lot of people who have been long-term supporters canceling their tickets. And I think a lot of the newer supporters are probably a little bit less likely, or the middle class, upper class ticket buyers. But it's silly to continue to like hand wave away any of the arguments against this because it's, oh, well, it's the tax thing, and people are like, well, my ticket price still went up 15%. They're like, no. Your ticket price went up like 4%, but the taxes went up 8%. So when you combine it was 13%. It's just silly. Anyway, that's my soapbox. We will continue to track this, but I mean, who knows if the numbers are going to come out and be way worse than they've ever been in the past and the most people ever have canceled, but I don't know. It feels shitty. It feels shitty for sure.
Yeah. I just wish that, it just never feels good or right that, like people's ability to like attend sporting events or have season tickets should be like that heavily correlated to like if you're rich or not. That's always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, just in principle.
And like, to be fair, I could move seats. I could move from where I'm sitting, which is basically just like to the right of GA. I could move into GA and I could totally afford 2-3 tickets there. But like, that's not how I prefer to watch the game. I like to have a seat. I like to be able to actually see the game, and respect to the people who go into GA. In respect to the people who are like, I can't even afford GA anymore because over the last 5 years, it's doubled or something like that. Because those are supposed to be the tickets that are super affordable. They get the young people in. They get people excited to come to those games. And I don't know. I think I don't know exactly how much it was raised between, on average 15%. Raising supporters tickets 15% is crazy. GA supporters tickets 15% is crazy.
It's a lot. And, if you read Jeremiah's article that you referenced, he does talk about how, they do this every year, like to probably lesser extents, but they do this every year. And there's always a negative response that's sort of attributed to a vocal minority. But to read what Jeremiah wrote about it, like it feels like the negative sentiment is like at a higher pitch than it usually is. So
absolutely.
Anyway, like you said, like we know this is important to a lot of you out there, and it's a big issue in the fan base right now. So like Noah said, we'll continue to track it and cover it because it's a big story.